Welcome back to the Puck Bunker. This is episode 28. I am Rocco Zappia, joined as always by my co-host, the man who once ran a coup in the Fantasy Hockey League to seize control as commissioner, Darren Boyce. How you doing?
I don't know if I ran the coup or if other people enforced the coup.
Hey, either way, the man sees what he wants and he takes what he wants. No one messes around with Commissioner Boyce, I'll tell you that. He runs a tight ship. We are back with some prospect profiles today, more or less rounding out all the guys that we had inside of our top 50 and a couple others. We're going to look at two forwards from the Big-10 in the NCAA who are vying to be probably the top forward picked out of that league, and Horcoff and Vansaghi. And we got a big defenseman that we've mentioned that in passing several times, David Bedkowski, and a Russian, Prokhorov, a Russian forward, who we're going to get to as well. So it should be good. And then we're going to start probably later this week, a little bit of a different series of episodes. We're going to start getting into some top fives and some top 10 lists. And that should be a lot of fun. But today we will stick with the prospect profiles. Who would you like to start with, Darren?
Let's go with Bedkowski. We'll save the Russian for last.
Okay, sounds good. All right, let's start with David Bedkowski. You want to go ahead with him?
Sure. So David Bedkowski plays for the Owen Sound Attack of the OHL. He's a December 7th, 2006 birthday. So again, he's an 06. So he's a little bit older for the class. 6'5", 214-pound defenseman, right-hand shot. Very noteworthy, the right-hand shot. As of today, he's played 34 games in the OHL. He was traded from Oshawa earlier in the year. So he has 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points, and 71 penalty minutes. And he's a -8. Now, Owen Sound isn't really that great of a team. So that's not a terrible number, actually, for them. In terms of his abilities, things I really liked about him, I think his top skill, maybe his most elite skill, definitely his physicality. I mean, he's 6'5". He's a really big body. He openly out-muscles guys on the ice. He hammers guys at times. He scares people. That is a very good skill set to see. I think that's one of the better ones for most of the D in this class. He plays a very, we say maybe more of a playoff brand of hockey. Something you would see out a lot of the guys that in the NHL that are in the playoffs, the way they play. He fits that model. Skating wise, I actually think he's decent with his his forward stride, or even just generally going backwards. That's okay. Especially when he's up to speed, that's fine. So he's not a terrible skater at all. Again, at that size, it actually probably plays higher than the skill really is, because he's not a bad skater. 6'5", he can, you get a couple steps, he's moving pretty quickly out there. He works hard. If he's ever out of position, he's scrambling to get back. As you said, he's willing to be physical, willing to engage in battles. Defensively, I actually feel like he's a decent defender. There is probably more potential there to be an even better defender. He's got the abilities that a D need just for clearances and that. Good high flip ability. He's got a good stick that breaks up a lot of plays. He's physical on the boards. He can break up cycle plays that way. He does need a little bit of work just on his, step-ups per se at the line. He's a little reckless at times there. Maybe steps up a little bit too much. Maybe he needs to be a little bit more conservative there. And he does get caught kind of watching guys at times. Now, things I would be a little bit worried about, I talked about his skating. I think his straightforward skating is actually fine. Some agility issues. I think he has he struggles turning. There is a pattern here where once a game he kind of gets burned, specifically turning to his right. That's where he's kind of struggles. He kind of loses speed on his, on his turns and on kind of his pivots in that direction. Something that definitely needs to be worked on. But again, the puck skills here are fine. I think he can make a first pass. I think, I don't think he's going to be an offensive guy per se, but he can connect, he can connect plays. He's not going to hurt you per se offensively. So even with his 7 points, I don't think he's, again, I don't think you're drafting him to be, an offensive guy. But there is, again, he's not a complete zero there. He can definitely contribute. But again, he's a more simple type guy. So I have him decently high, actually. I think he can play in the NHL. There's definitely a skill set for him there. And if he can improve kind of his agility skating wise, I think you're going to have a pretty good defender here. Because the kind of the natural skills to be a good NHL defenseman that plays late in the playoffs is here. So I have him kind of early second. But again, a right-hand shot, 6'5", I would not be shocked at all if a team really liked him in the first round. He's got a skill set that a lot of teams are looking for come trade deadline, looking for their playoff teams, and he fits that model. A team, I'll say this, not that they'll have a chance to get him, but a team like the Ottawa Senators, who we really like, this would be a really good fit for them. And if they had a pick in the second round, but nonetheless, that would fit their model. So we're looking at a big physical right-hand shot defenseman here. So what did you think, Rocco? I think you've seen him live this year.
Yeah. And I really liked him live. Now, I don't know that I see a first round potential here. To me, he screams like a very, very classic second round pick. You're comfortable. I mean, the offense here is effectively zero in terms of why you're drafting him. I don't think you're taking him with the hopes of developing him into a 30, 40 point defenseman. If that comes on its own somehow one day, fine. But you're drafting him to be big and tough and mean. And those guys usually are second or third round guys. I like him in the second. I like him really anywhere in the second. I wouldn't love him in the first. I don't know that even with the size and the handedness and the physicality, I don't know that the skating and the puck skills are good enough for me to be a first rounder. Anyways, I think there's probably more talented guys, but as soon as you get to the second, I've got all the time in the world for this kind of guy. And honestly, to counter my own point, if you do think he's going to play a long time in the NHL, that probably makes him a top 32 pick in that sense. Anyways, but I just don't know if that would be for me. But I really like the player. He knows what he is, I think, and that's what I like about him. He plays to his strengths, and you love how physical is. He's physical to the point that, I mean, he can take himself out of position trying to blow guys up sometimes. But I mean, I've said it before, I'd rather have to rein in the wild horse than try to teach a kid to be competitive like that. So I really like the player for what he is. I think his puck skills are good enough. I think his skating is good enough. And I think he defends really well. And the physical part is there, that there's a mold for a guy who's probably no fun to play against here.
Well, the reason I say he could be a first is just once he gets kind of picked 21, 22, it's kind of, it's pick what you want here. I don't think there's much of a divide between maybe the talent level there. But again, I find this skill set could work in the NHL with him. And I think because his actual straightforward skating isn't bad, I feel like his agility could improve. I feel like that, again, it's that and kind of some decision making, specifically when he decides to pinch up or, kind of step up at a blue line there. Like, it's just kind of reading the play a little bit better.
Agility and pinch decisions are two things that can really get you burnt at the NHL level.
They can, but there's a lot of other skills here that I see that play at the NHL level, not just one.
No, I agree.
And that's why he could be a first or at least an early second to me, because it's not just one elite skill or one high-end NHL skill we're looking at that's desirable here. I mean, the size and the physicality in general itself plays. I think his puck skills and his passing aren't actually that bad. He makes pretty good decisions with the puck, especially in the defensive zone. If there's a pass available, he'll make it. If there isn't, he'll chip it out. or he'll flip it out. He makes very good decisions there. He isn't just firing passes up the middle that get picked off. He doesn't do that.
No,
Coaches will like that.
I agree. And if you're a guy that doesn't have necessarily super high end puck skills, deferring to the safe play, I mean, that's something that you like to see, because turnovers at the NHL level is where you can really get yourself into trouble. So he limits those, which is really good. And like you said, he moves a puck adequately. His first pass is fine. His D-to-D pass is fine. He doesn't push the puck. He doesn't send muffins up the middle. So there's a lot of things to suggest that he could be the more defensive minded guy on a pairing, and be highly effective as a retrieval guy who makes the first move either to his defenseman or
and he does step up offensively a bit. He doesn't make bad decisions stepping up offensively per se. He just doesn't.
No, he's just very conservative. He's very conservative about when he does it. He won't jump into the play offensively unless it's very obviously there.
Yeah.
Which is fine. He knows what his game is. I have no problem with that.
But like, he is the classic guy. If you see it, like, again, some of those highlights there, he is just smoking people.
Oh yeah, yes.
And like, he's so
yes, he enjoys hitting people very hard. There's no doubt about that.
I mentioned the Sens kind of earlier. Like, they drafted Eliasson last year, who's kind of a big mean guy to play against. Like, I think this is a better prospect than him, and he went mid-second.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like, you don't want to necessarily compare him.
No, but it's more the skill set that some of these teams will see this body and kind of the skills involved, and they'll be really high on him. That's the point I'm making.
No, and that's fair. And like, I saw him live this year. I've seen him, several times on video, and every time I watch him, I'm like, second rounder. Just because I do think in the first there's probably some safe guys that maybe have a touch more skill or skating or upside there. But again, as soon as you get to the second, I think this is a very, very good pick. I really like the player. I just don't know if he's a first.
I just don't know how safe the picks are kind of in the late 20s in this draft. Like, you're kind of, guys have a lot of, like, there's a lot of guys with risk even after 20.
Yeah, but that's most years though. There's usually a pretty good drop off in games played once you hit the early 20s. Like, there's usually about 20 guys mostly who mostly play in that first, the top 20, 22 picks. Usually most guys there play. And you're right though, between a guy in the mid 20s and the mid second, there's usually not a lot of difference. But that's not just this year. That's almost any year. There's always guys in the late first who don't really play.
I'm just saying, like, there is a world where someone jumps up to take him just because they really like the body. They like kind of the canvas of the guy. They think they can develop him.
No, and that's fair. And I said this exact same thing about Danford last year, who I'm like, he's a second rounder all day. He knows what he is. Big, safe with the puck, that sort of thing. And went in the first round. To my and many people surprised. Not that he didn't deserve it. He's a heck of a prospect. I don't want to suggest that he's not, but just as an example, where you're right, someone might just say, "Hey, there's not a ton that excites me here. Let's take a guy that we are pretty sure we can plug into our lineup."
Yeah. So I mean, and he's a guy too. I think you're going to see next year. Owen Sound will be a better team. He'll probably be a little more highly regarded. Halfway through next year when Owen Sound's actually quite a good team, or a much better team, and he'll be one of the reasons why he'll be playing a lot for them.
No, and that's very fair as well. And a guy like this in junior too, who's a big shutdown D in the draft here with not a ton of points. Sometimes they take a step as they become the older players in junior. They naturally get more points, and that side of the game can develop a little bit for them.
You're frozen.
All right, hold on. So that's defenseman David Bedkowski for the Owen Sound Attack, someone that we both like quite a bit as a guy who's got a pretty good chance, in our opinion anyways, to become an NHL player and play for a long time in the league. Does a lot of things that we like. We will move on to the Big-10 in the NCAA. We're going to feature a guy from the Michigans, one from each, but we'll start with William Horcoff here. And he's a 6'4", 181-pound. Plays mostly left wing for the University of Michigan Wolverines. Plays center as well. Started the season with the U.S. national team program, the U18 program, where he had 6 goals and 11 points in 26 games played. He moved to Michigan after Christmas, and since that time, he's got 18 games played. He's got 4 goals and 10 points, and he's playing about 14 to 15 minutes a night there with them. Now, I don't have actually much issue with his skating, to be honest. I think once he gets up to top speed, he's actually more than adequate, and at full tilt, he can really put some pressure on guys and force them into some bad decisions. He's at 6'4" when he's coming at you. It's not a fun look, and that can force people into some mistakes, which he's quite good at doing. I think he looks a lot more comfortable getting up and down the ice and with the pace of the NCAA play than he did when I first watched him when he first moved over to that league. In January, there's an adjustment period there, and I think he's done a good job. I think he's done a good job with that, and the pace of play and the skating have looked like they've come a little bit since he's moved over there, which is good. He can still be a little bit upright at times, but it's more so kind of at the end of his shift when he's really gassed. So it's not super uncommon. I'm not overly concerned about it. Quickness isn't quite there yet where you'd like it to be, but with an extra half step when he's starting from a standstill, then I don't think that's going to hurt him at all. Especially at his size, that comes with the territory a little bit. So as long as he can get that, to a little bit average or a little bit above average, I think that's fine. He's got extremely high motor. He's rarely not moving his feet. Very deliberate. I find with his movement, he attacks really hard. He attacks in straight lines when he's playing without the puck. When he makes a decision to make a play at the puck or on a man, it's a straight line as hard as he can. Very efficient guy who moves around the ice. Decent shot, above average to me, not necessarily a true goal scorer shot, but he can get it off pretty quickly. And more importantly, is very good in front of the net. Good hand in front of the net. He's really hard to move out of the dirty areas. Really good at cleaning up rebounds and banging home loose pucks. Based on that skill, I could see him becoming a bit of an offensive contributor. A big body with good enough hands, that always plays well on a power play. And I feel that he could probably play with better guys. I think he has good enough puck skills to be able to play with better guys and contribute in that sense. Can carry the puck in space fine. Doesn't play a super fancy game, but I don't really have a problem with that. He's not going to beat several guys in a row, with a series of one-on-one dekes, but he's a very good one move and go or one cut and go type of player. Playmaking to me is good, although not necessarily overly creative. He does read the ice well. He can hit an open man with a pass, but a lot of simple plays, but he's a very good simple playmaker. And I think based on that, he can fit in as the heavier guy with 2 skilled players. Reads the play really, really well. He's excellent in puck support, and he anticipates the play really, really well. He's always either supporting the play or squaring up to the play, looking to get open. There's not a lot of dead time in his game where he's not trying to do something, even without the puck. Makes a lot of low risk decisions and takes good care of the puck. He defers to the safe option usually rather than trying to force a play that isn't there. Further that, in terms of shooting and passing, he makes very good decisions when it's time to shoot the puck and when the better option lies in moving it to one of his teammates. I liked his defensive zone play quite a bit as well. Does a really good job, I think, tracking his man. Doesn't cheat his responsibilities. Very honest defensive games. He's a really good two-way player. Highly competitive kid. One of the best motors. one of the best motors in this whole draft class for me. This is something that I love to see in a guy. If I'm drafting a guy, he's probably going to be competitive. So this kid he's right up my alley. Excellent finish, excellent physical game, finishes every hit. Goes out of his way to hit guys sometimes if it doesn't take him out of the play too much. He dominates board play, even in the NCAA against older guys who should be stronger. Shields off guys really well. It's extremely strong in front of the net. A true power forward here. I really like him. Details are fantastic, as is his size and his effort level. I think there is some offensive upside here. I think his offensive upside could be a little bit better than what the stats may suggest. I think he could be the digger on one of your top two lines and be the physical presence there. Conversely, he has a lot of skills that would translate extremely well in the bottom six. So there's a lot of versatility to his game, which is always a good thing. Really good net front presence, has the hands to clean up rebounds, high IQ player, all three zones, shots good enough to score in the dirty areas, and reads the play well as distributor, quite effective passer, although again, like I said, simple. Good care of the puck, doesn't take high risk plays. I mean, coaches are going to love this guy. I think fans are going to like this guy. It's very easy to cheer for this kind of player. Yeah, I think he could really develop into a true and honest up and down the lineup, both special teams, all situations player for you. I'm a huge fan of William Horcoff.
So when I looked at him, this guy screams at me like his floor is a fourth line guy. Like to me, this again looks. So our last episode, we looked at guys like Nesbitt, right, and Genborg. I like him better than both of them. I don't see any real major flaw in his game per se. At worst, things are average. So when you're starting your template, kind of everything's average and kind of going from there.
And you're 6'4".
And you're 6'4", and you have some room to put on weight. I think, again, because I only think he's like 185 pounds right now. I think this is, to me, he has that kind of fourth line. He can be kind of the big, really hard guy to play against. But there is some offensive talent here where he can score a little bit. He can contribute that way. And as you said, he can play with good guys. But I think what's notable at Michigan is when he, came from the development program, they kind of threw him in the lineup and he kind of just kept playing more and more. And even the games I was watching, he was out late in those games kind of protecting leads. So that's pretty noteworthy to me that the coaches already think he's pretty responsible and not going to hurt you on the ice in a league where he would be, deemed one of the younger players. So that's good. I mean, yeah, like his skating is fine. It's not great, but I think what's really good for him is, he's not going to beat you with a move or like be real shifty on guys. He's just really strong. So he's just gonna, he's not gonna beat you with finesse. Like he's just gonna overpower you. Now, is that gonna happen in the NHL level all the time? Maybe not, but he's also gonna be 6'4", 215, 220. Like maybe it will. Like maybe you could play that way if you're a good forechecker that size. Yeah, like you win all your board battles. Like, sorry
for those guys, I just find it takes maybe until you're in your mid-20s. Like, I mean, you're the biggest and strongest growing up, and then you're still tall, but like you're not the strongest or the biggest when you get to the NHL. But when those guys get their, when they're fully filled out, when they get their man strength, they're almost impossible to handle.
Yeah. Well, he's already pretty strong. Like he's playing he's probably, again, he's playing stronger. Like that is one thing with the NCAA. Like those guys are older and stronger. And he's playing that type of game and he's being successful at it. He also tries pretty hard and he's pretty good defensively. So you have a pretty good floor here of a guy that can play. Now, the question is, do you think he has more upside than guys like, again, I'm going to compare him to our last episode, like Nestrazel. Do you think he has more upside than him? Like Nesbitt, do you think he has more upside than him? I'm not sure. I think he actually does have more than Nesbitt. Nestrazel might be another question, but I think Nestrazel has more of a lower floor too. So
Okay, I would say maybe in terms of ultimate offensive upside, if everything goes well, he might not, but I would take him before though. I would take him probably ahead anyways. I think that like you said, his floor is so high. I have very little doubts that this guy is going to play in the league. And I think his floor is more honestly as a third liner than a fourth. And I think he projects it as, as a middle six guy in his best years, which, I think he can score in the same type of ways that Lawson Krause scores, where he'll score 15 to 25 really ugly goals, and you're going to love every one of them. And he's going to be no fun to play against, and a guy that would be probably hard to acquire via trade. I think if things pan out for Horcoff, you're looking at a guy that probably every team would want to have, and probably want to have a lot of them.
Yeah. Like even his playmaking, I didn't find his playmaking to be like he made some decent passes. He was decent on the rush. Like he wasn't, again, we've talked with some other guys that maybe like we're worried about their vision in that. I thought he made decent decisions. He's not going to drive play per se, but I mean, I thought he did some good things out there.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think his playmaking is very effective, simple but effective. But honestly, that's what works. That's what works in pro. You don't see there's a reason that there's like one or two highlight reel plays on the highlights every night because they're hard to do at that level. Most goals are because of turnovers or dirty plays, or power plays. But the highlight reel flash and dash type goals doesn't work at the NHL level usually for the most part. So what works?
I guess
what works is what Horcoff is good at. The things that work is what
we're saying is he already plays kind of that type of game.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to turn the puck over at the blue line trying to make a move on a guy, right? Like that's not what he's going to do, which is a good habit that, a lot of guys in junior don't tend to have yet. They always try and beat guys. So like he kind of has that already. And again, hockey family, right? Like he comes from a, family where his father played in the NHL. So, I mean, he that's another thing to kind of take into account.
Sick.
Yeah.
He was really, really good.
Yeah. Different type of player than his son, but still.
Yeah, but it's still okay. But there's still, yes, but he's still reaping the benefits of growing up around the NHL. And I don't care what anyone says. It's a huge, huge, huge thing because he watched from the time he was 5 years old. He watched what it took to be in the league. He watched, dad come home with bumps and bruises and injuries and go to work the next day and probably work his bag off in the off season and all those things that made Sean Horcoff a great pro. William was able to see that his whole life. A lot of kids come into the league, they have to learn how to be a pro. And I don't think that this guy is going to need to learn how to be a pro. I think he already carries himself with pro habits and the effort level and the work ethic. Like you said, aside from maybe not a ton of high-end individual one-on-one puck skill, there's really not anything to dislike about this prospect at all. Like for me, I'd be very comfortable taking him in the late 20s.
Thing with the one-on-one puck skill though, he can combat that because he can win the one-on-one battle skill against those same guys, right? Like that's
for sure.
Like he's probably more of a dump and chase type player, but like again, it works.
Yeah. No, but if you're 6'4" who hits everything and wins every battle and has elite one-on-one puck skill, that's called the first overall pick. So
yeah. Well, that guy, it's Eric Lindros, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So he's not the Big E, but not many would be. But I've got all the time in the world for this guy. This is the kind of guy where if it comes down to picking between him and maybe a more high skill guy, I would kind of just say like, hey, you know what you're getting here. This is the kind of player that you want to inject into your organization. And I think look, you are what you draft. And if you spend all your time drafting highly competitive, responsible, not devoid of skill, but just highly competitive kids, you're gonna have some of them pan out. And I think that's what wins in the playoffs is you gotta want it. You gotta want it more than the other guy. And very rarely do I see another guy on the ice wanting it more than Horcoff. He's going pretty much full tilt at all times.
So just looking at his rankings here, the Hockey News actually has him in the first round. They have him 30th overall. But then most of the other outlets have him around 50. I would probably aim maybe a little bit between that, I think, is where where I have him ranked right now. But again, as we said, kind of after pick 20, like this is probably a pretty safe pick. So if there's some teams out there that really, again, think they want to hit on their pick and still have a little bit of upside here, I think this is, a decent guy to look at.
Yeah, and like you ideally would want to get him in the second round. Obviously, I think you'd be excited about getting a guy like this in the second round. But if you're sitting there end of the first, you need to get a guy that you think is going to play. Like,
yeah,
that's what you want.
I think right now I have him 40, right on 40, which I think if you're taking him there, you're pretty happy about it. Yeah,
certainly. So that's William Horcoff for University of Michigan Wolverines. Do you want to stay in the NCAA here? And then
we'll do our Russian guy last because I know you have some thoughts on him.
Oh, do I ever? Okay, so let's move over to well, I guess we're not moving over anywhere. We're gonna stay in the NCAA, and we're gonna take a look at Shane Vansaghi, who is a 6'2", 210-pound right winger for the Michigan State Spartans in the Big-10 as well. So couple guys on some rival squads here. In 35 games played with them, he's got 6 goals and 16 points to go along with 16 PIMs, while averaging just about 12 minutes of ice time per game. Now, this is a guy who's actually really similar in a lot of ways, I think, to Horcoff in terms of his playing style. But let's start with the skating ability, which to me is probably his main issue. And you can see when you watch him, it's not obviously his strongest attribute. I think most reports would agree that that's kind of where he would need to do his biggest work. He's fine at top speed once he really gets going, but he can be quite upright at times, and his stride can really break down towards the end of a shift and get quite short on him. So it's a work in progress for him, but I don't think that's any secret. And he has looked to have improved his skating compared to earlier in the year. It's a little less choppy, a little more fluid compared to when I saw him, at the beginning of the season. So the positive progression is something that you like to see. And hey, I've seen worse skaters than this guy have very long careers in the league. So as long as there is some continued focus from him, I'm not worried about it holding him back. I don't think it's ever going to be his calling card. But he just needs to get it to a point where it's good enough. And I do think that he can do that. He plays with a very high motor, as much pace as he's able to. And he does look like he's willing to kind of outwork his quickness issues, which you like to see. I think he's shown a few instances here this year of having a pretty dangerous shot when he's put in a good scoring position. That said, he does most of his scoring damage from right around the net. Very capable net front presence, and he knows how to find guys. He knows how to hit guys with passes when they're in high danger areas and give them a chance to score. Very translatable, dirty area offense, which gives me hope that he can maybe contribute a little bit at the next level. He's shown some flashes of good puck skill on occasion, but overall, I'd say his individual puck skill projects kind of as average at the next level. He can beat guys with power and good body positioning more so than with a one-on-one high skill play. But like I said, you have seen instances of that. He's pretty effective as a puck carrier when he makes a simple play, which is usually what he will do. And I do like his playmaking ability. He identifies his options pretty quickly. and he can feed guys for a good scoring chance. Again, it's very simple but effective. His reads and his instincts as a forechecker are very strong. He's excellent as F1. He gets in there hard and is causing havoc. Great puck support as F2, and when in doubt, he just gets to the front of the net. He's pretty much always trying to square up to the play when he doesn't have the puck. He makes good decisions. Good decisions in scrambles around the net in terms of kind of when to hang a little bit higher out and when to really attack the crease. In other words, he knows how to get to rebounds and create secondary scoring chances. Very responsible two-way player. He doesn't blow his coverage and he doesn't get lost on the cycle. Gets back hard and he supports down low when it's appropriate. He's an extremely competitive kid with a very high motor. He's going hard pretty much all the times. Hell of a forechecker. He hits everything he can. He's relentless on the forecheck. Really battles hard in front of the net and along the boards. Wins most of his battles, certainly more than he loses. And at 210, he's not getting knocked around very often. Quite good puck protection ability. Excellent power forward model for me. I really, really love the competitiveness of this player. And he outworks pretty much everyone, and he outworks his own issues, which I like. He plays big. He's physical. Makes a lot of smart, simple plays. He takes really good care of the puck, doesn't take unnecessary risks while still incorporating some decent offensive elements to his game as well. I don't think that we're looking at a guy necessarily with a ton of offensive upside at the NHL level, but he can be a guy that can chip in offensively, can be very hard to play against, and can be relied upon in critical situations. So I think there's a pretty good mold for a bottom six guy here. I like him a lot. The skating may cap his upside, but again, he seems willing to outwork it, and he does play with as much pace as he's able to. Now, very similar scouting reports to what we just went through with Horcoff. I don't know if we're going to compare them directly. I would have Horcoff probably ahead. A little bit bigger, a little bit younger, not much, but a few months. Probably a little bit better mold of a skater, and can maybe chip in a little bit more offensively. But if Vansaghi turns out to be the better player because he's overcome, an issue or two, that wouldn't shock me either. I really, really like this guy as well. Boyce, thoughts?
So, well, you just kind of said it there, though. The difference kind of between them, in my opinion, right now, is that I don't really see a major flaw with Horcoff, whereas with Vansaghi, like the skating's an issue. He is not a great skater. That's kind of what you're working with there. Now, if he improves his skating, then you see the player you get. In my opinion, though, if his skating does improve, I'm just still not sure if he's a middle lineup guy or he's still a fourth line guy. He'd just be more effective in that role. Because he is a great forechecker, and he's extremely physical, and he tries really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, you love that part about it. I didn't see the offensive maybe potential that maybe Horcoff has. I just see a little more passing ability, a little more playmaking ability than Vansaghi has. That's just me. I mean, other people, a lot of people rank Vansaghi higher than Horcoff in their rankings. So
Vansaghi scored 2 or 3 pretty highlight reel goals here this year, and again, it hasn't been consistent, but he's showing some flashes of some pretty impressive offensive plays.
He has some ability to make guys miss at speed, like his top speed, which again isn't the fastest. But overall, I think there's a little more. Like Horcoff again knows what he is, whereas I think Vansaghi's still, again, it's working sometimes where he scores kind of a highlight reel goal. I just don't think that is what he wants to be doing if he wants to have an NHL career. I think he And that's the one thing, again, I feel there's a little more safety with Horcoff in that regard.
Yeah. Now
So
you don't like, okay, I don't think he's going to be a guy that scores highlight reel goals at the NHL level, but he's shown like you still have to have a requisite level, a requisite skill level with the puck to play in the NHL. And I think that he's demonstrated through a couple highlights at the NCAA level that he does have that requisite skill level. And it's a matter of making sure that he can keep up with the pace of play because, you know, the effort level and the physicality and the size are certainly exactly what every team would want.
I find his handling those inconsistent. Like, again, yes, he has highlights, but then he'll bobble the puck the rest of the game where, when he's handling the puck. So it's not like that's kind of where like highlights are deceiving, right? Because you have that one great play, but then you watch the rest of the game and you realize like that's more the outlier than the actual.
Yes, I agree. I do have a few instances here in my notes where it's like, misplayed the puck, but I went back and rewatched like the highlights that I kind of had marked as maybe more negative plays with him, and it's almost like a wide receiver dropping a pass because he was trying to run already.
Yeah.
So he kind of does that. He's processing what he wants to do quickly, which is good because he's eager to get the puck and make a decision, but sometimes he could take an extra half second, I think you're right, to maybe steady the puck and then make the play. But those are coachable things, I would hope.
Well, again, I'm just going to mention this too. Defensively, I liked Horcoff a little bit better just because Vansaghi's foot speed and his kind of agility to get going or ability to get going, his first step. It's a little late defensively at times just because he doesn't have that first step. So I thought Horcoff, again, was a little bit better defender than him too. Now, again, I also wrote in my notes, this really is dependent on how much you think you can improve a guy's skating. Because I can see a world now. I'm not going to say I don't know if he's a top 6 guy even with good wheels, but if he's an average speed guy, I at least see a lower lineup player here that'll be very hard to play against and shouldn't be a problem defensively. However, because of his foot speed right now, like I have trouble seeing it at the moment. So it's kind of, do you think you can improve that skill enough where he can play? And that's kind of the difference I see between them. Like it's just kind of the issue I with Nesbitt, right? That I'm a little bit worried about what his foot speed's going to look like. And if that improves, you have the canvas of a good player here. It's just, it has to improve. It has to improve.
Now, I will say this though, in my years of scouting, now I know Vansaghi's 6'2", but you mentioned Nesbitt. Guys that are 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", I've very rarely not seen them take a big step in their skating between 18 and 19.
Well, that's why I have Nesbitt ranked higher though, right?
Yeah,
like,
no, and that's fair. But when we talk about guys skating, that is something that historically I've seen improve naturally as guys fill out and get stronger. Unless there's a stride issue, a lot of times it's a strength thing more than anything. That said, like I mentioned with Vansaghi, his stride can break down. It can get pretty short pretty quick.
So here's the other thing. He's already 215 pounds. Like he's kind of like, there's some other guys we've mentioned here. Again, not the same type of players, but we've talked about like maybe a Jake O'Brien, right? Like he's a good skater now, but he has 30 pounds of weight to put on. He'll probably end up being a stronger skater. There isn't as much room for that. Like he's already strong, right? So like it's, to me, it is more of a stride issue than it is, like he's weak. Where there are guys I've seen that are, like I can see, like, I don't think their stride's bad. They're just weak. So I think he does need help on that skill. Now, if that skill comes and it just gets to average, I think that is a guy. And that's why you'd be drafting him where you'd be drafting him, because you think, okay, I can get a really effective lower lineup player here who is one of the, again, one of the hardest workers in the draft, one of the most physical players in the draft. That's going to be, a fan favorite for our organization, and everyone on our team is going to love playing with them. Like that's kind of the guy, you're not going to expect him to score a lot, but I mean, he could score around net. I mean, you do see, as you said of the highlights, I might have said, it's not the norm, but the highlights do exist. Like, there is some creation ability.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he's a smart player too. And it's just also the other thing, like he works so hard, you can't help but not be a fan of him. Like, even if, and again, like you said, certain things need to come, but if they can get to an average level, you're looking at a really effective player. And again, you inject competitive kids into your organization, you're going to have success over time. And like this is a guy that, regardless of where he goes in the draft, I'm going to be pulling for him as he develops over the next few years. I look at him, I'm like, fuck, I want this guy to make it.
If it gets to average, the work ethic alone will make it above average. Like, it kind of like gives him a level up just because he works so hard. And that's kind of where I'm going with that. Like, if it gets to average, then this is probably an effective guy. Yeah. It's not there yet. That's all.
No, it's not there yet, but again, it's better than it was earlier in the year for sure. So that's encouraging.
That's encouraging, yeah.
Well, it is. What if it looks? Well, some guys it doesn't improve over the year.
Well, there's some skills don't improve over the year, and that's where we point them out, and I think we make sure others notice.
But I think the skating's come for him since the beginning of the year. Like, he's obviously working on it. He's not dumb. He knows he has to work on it.
Oh yeah, like I think, again, this comes down to a team's ability or a scout's thought process on skating. It really does. Again, if you think that your organization can coach them up, and again, it's skating. Can't really coach effort. Like, that's there.
Yeah, he has
that, right? Like, he has effort and physicality. Like, it's hard to coach that type of stuff. You have that already. So this is a coachable skill.
And what's sad is most kids don't have those skills, which are so within control, is that most kids don't compete the way that this guy does, and they're not willing to play the physical side. So that's why I said you want to cheer for him, because you love. It's really hard not to love what he brings to the table when he's playing well. He's a guy that I've watched a few times. I liked him right away. Just like, it's just my kind of guy. So that's Shane Vansaghi from the Michigan State Spartans, the evil brother, or maybe Michigan Wolverines is the evil brother. Depends who you ask. But couple great prospects from rival teams in the Big-10. And Darren from Russia with Love. We got one more. You ready to go?
All right. So we have the complete opposite model of player of the two forwards that we've already spoken about here. So I am looking at Daniil Prokhorov, and he plays for MHK Dynamo St. Petersburg in the MHL. He is a 6'6", 210-pound winger, left shot, April 2007 birthday. And this year, he has 40 games played with his junior team. He has 19 goals, 7 assists for 26 points, 14 penalty minutes, and he's a -4. So, speaking of this player, here are the pros here. Obviously his size is very intriguing. So this is a 6'6" forward. So that in itself, we're looking at, that's intriguing. Skating, he is actually quite a good skater, I think, especially speed-wise for his size. I think he's actually deceiving how big he is, or how fast he is for his size. He can pull away on rushes, and he gives D's a lot of problems. So again, that model of a size skating guy is very intriguing to teams. That will be, kind of the positive things that they see about him. I think with his puck skills too, I mean, he does have he has good hands in space, and he can manipulate defenses. The downside there is I think he tries to do it too much, and he loses the puck. So that's, again, makes a guy miss, doesn't really take advantage of what he's created, and doesn't, the play dies. That's kind of what I'm worried about with him. But again, puck skills are decent. Also physicality. I think there's very high level strength here. I think he can see that. He wins board battles and leverages his size a lot to get to the net. He's good at creating chances for himself that way. So one thing I noticed, if some highlights here, he's really good at getting behind. Again, he's behind the net a few times, and he actually leverages his size to make very strong wraparound plays, which not a lot of guys can do. Now, the downside of that is the NHL. These guys are going to be bigger defensemen, probably lay him out. So he's going to have to kind of combat that. But there is a strength component to his game, which is also intriguing. So those are the pros here. Now, the cons here, I'm going to use, okay. His D zone is okay, but he's lazy getting back into the zone, and he flies by guys a lot. So, I mean, I had a friend of mine literally just call him an airplane because he's flying by all the time. So that's not great. So that's, again, that's something we definitely have to work on. He's not fully committed in that zone. Even his effort, as I said, it's okay offensively, but defensively, it's definitely lacking the other direction. I would also say agility-wise, yes, he has agility, but he falls randomly a lot. So again, that might be more size-related. I mean, that one can probably improve with time and more strength. However, the biggest thing that I had a problem with is his passing and playmaking. It's very limited. He just wants to come in and shoot all the time. He doesn't pass at all. He only passes when it's vital that he does, or he's going to lose the puck. And even sometimes he just holds onto the puck and loses it anyway. Doesn't hit guys in good spots. I mean, doesn't even try to pass in a lot of situations on the rush. And the other thing is when we're on the power play too, the puck movement stops with him. So I always equate that to kind of a basketball player that just dribbles the air out of the ball. That's what he is. Like, he gets the puck and you're never getting the puck back, which is not the easiest guy to play with at any level of hockey. So, I mean, that to me is an issue that I don't see the passing vision here or the willingness to be passing and how that will be translating at the next level. To me, that was one of the lower skills I'd actually seen of a lot of guys. That ability to just, create for others. He's not really doing that. And most of his assists are, again, created from shots that he took. So he would take shots or even these wraparound type power moves that I was talking about. And that's how he created his assists. I think there's about one highlight on there of an assist that he had. So again, and the other thing is shot. I think he does have a good shot. He just shoots from everywhere. So there's no real, he takes a lot of bad shots. Like, they're not threatening the goalie. They're from really bad angles, shoots it wide, comes back out the other way for a rush. Not really, taking maybe an intelligent shot. And even if he shoots from everywhere, you would think that the other teams would, there might be some passing lanes for him to be open because he shoots so often, but he never takes advantage of them. So I know I'm hammering on him here a little bit, but you see the big divide here in this player. That's, there's some high level skills that scouts will see with the size, the speed, the shot, and he has some physical tools. But there's one gigantic flaw, which I think's hard to learn. I think that one's very difficult to learn. So that, I think that influences my opinion of him. So we've seen lately, there's been, again, he wasn't really ranked earlier in the year. He's become kind of popular in some other kind of scouting lists. We've seen him in the first round on a couple lists. I don't agree with that. If he had some high-end playmaking ability, I would agree with that, but it's not even close to average. It's well below average. It's, again, I hate to be this guy, but like, that's almost something you see in beer league with some guys who just don't pass the puck. And so that is something that we need to see some improvement on. I'd actually argue in my viewings it's regressed as the year's gone on. it's actually become less of something that he's been trying to do or working on. So I don't know what you saw, Rocco, but that is, again, it's kind of a conundrum with this prospect that, to me, this is actually the biggest boom bust guy I've seen, because if you're drafting him, you're taking a complete shot in the dark on the elite skills you see, but you're ignoring the flaws.
Okay. All right. Where do I begin? All right. What do I like about him? Okay. The size and the skill combination is phenomenal. Okay. It's fantastic. He's huge. He's a very, very, very good skater for his size. Very good wheels, good top speed. His shot can be very good when it doesn't take him 3 minutes to release it, because he telegraphs it so much. He's so talented and so frustrating, and I don't know if he's more talented or more frustrating. You fawn over the physical tools of this guy, the size, skating, shooting ability, but terrible, awful details and habits. One complete one-man show offensive, like wouldn't even think to try to pass the puck unless he's about to get blown up. Long wind up on his shot, which results in too many being deflected. That's coachable. Terrible decision making on when to shoot always versus when to pass never. If the puck's not in play, he's not trying. I don't know, man. I've seen him as high as 12th, and I've seen him unranked. And like, depending on the shift, I think either of those could be accurate. The problem is, like, even if he hits, like, I wouldn't draft this type of player. Period. I just would not draft him under any circumstances, unless it's like, it would have to be late. It'd have to be after the first 2 rounds, or at the end of the second. Like, I'm not taking him anywhere near the first round. I'm not even thinking about it, and I don't even give a shit how skilled he is. If he hits, he's James Harden. And
I love how you're using the basketball reference like I am.
okay, well, I mean, come on. Wants the puck all the time, refuses to pass, terrible habits, doesn't make his teammates better, makes everyone worse, and puts up some highlights. Is that not James Harden?
Well, James Harden can pass a little bit. He can.
Like it. Just, and like, predictable, telegraphs his decisions, because he's trying to take it through everybody all the time. Even his assists, 7 assists on the year. I watch him, and at least 3 of them, were accidents, where it was a guy converting on his rebounds, or like he tried to shoot and
the puck.
Yeah, and then it goes in the back, and I was like, oh, that's an assist. So like, he's got 7 assists, but like, I think 1 or 2 of them were on purpose, and a lot of low IQ plays. And I don't know, but then you watch his highlight reels, and you're like, holy fuck, he's got every physical tool you could want from an offensive scroll. Why is he doing the bird celebration like Kuznetsov? Like, come on, what are you doing?
The problem is that I'm just not sure how this type of talent, or the flaws, translate to the next level, even pro level in Russia. Like, he's going to struggle to play.
Because the physical ability is there, but you have to reshape his entire game. He has to completely change how he plays, and he has to completely change how he sees the ice when he has the puck. Because now when he has the puck, as soon as he gets it, it's tunnel vision to the goalie. And how can I get this puck on my own to the back of the net, regardless of where I pick it up, and regardless of what's going on around me?
He doesn't have a good IQ for, who's open, or where guys are.
Okay. I don't know if he doesn't have a good IQ for it, because I feel like he doesn't even try.
No,
he could be a good playmaker, but how do we know when you're not trying to make it?
He does, but you do see him try to pass the puck, and it's usually just doesn't go well.
When do you see that?
Well, you do, and they're turnovers. Like, he doesn't.
You see it when? when he's in the corner and there's a guy way bigger than him about to blow him up, and then he'll panic pass the puck. And that's not even a real pass. That's just throwing it away so you don't get clobbered.
But the point I'm making is that he tends to not pass, but when he does pass, it's still not a good pass. Like that's like, it's not like I haven't seen any evidence that he can do it. I think that's what I'm more concerned about. I'd be less concerned if I saw evidence that he could do it. He just chooses not to. Like, I'm just not sure that ability is actually there.
No, I don't think he reads the ice well at all.
No, I think that is a correct conclusion. I think he just wants to get to net each time. And again, the skills exist here. This is a project. If you're taking him, like, this is a project.
The biggest.
Yeah. And now, do I see, again, we've talked about this before. When you get into the second round, you're looking for just one elite skill out of a lot of these guys, right?
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's what we've said. He has multiple. So, I mean,
you're looking for a couple.
Yeah, he does. So, I mean, I think the second round is fine for him if someone wants to take that shot. I don't think he's undraftable. I think that's, again, I know he maybe.
Okay, but hold on. But he's not undraftable, and I think he's second rounder, and he's got first round talent. I'll give him that. But to me, like, some teams will have him on their do not draft list. I fucking guarantee it. Not that we'll ever be able to prove that. It's more than possible, dude. I guarantee there's at least a couple teams in the league who are going to take one look at this guy and say, I don't care, find someone else.
Yeah.
They're going to say, I don't care, go find someone else. Like, give me Bedkowski, who's going to be a third pair defenseman, over this guy any day of the week. Bedkowski would stuff this guy into a locker and take his lunch money and then, like, you know what I mean? And enjoy it and have fun with it. And this guy would be like, I'll deke you out.
Yeah.
But he won't, because he's predictable. I don't know. It's just not.
Like, have you seen any guys like
this?
Not
for me.
Have you seen any guys like this in the past? Like, I don't remember anyone kind of
this that have hit.
That are like this lacking with the vision part of the game.
Salmon. But he could pass.
He could pass, though. Like, that's like, I feel like that, to me, out of all these skills that we have, like, offensive IQ is kind of the hardest to teach. Like, you just kind of have it or you don't.
Okay. I don't necessarily agree with that, but he's certainly not naturally inclined to manipulating the ice with his brain.
Well, just again, we go back to some, but we go back to some guys that we've talked about, like Denway and O'Brien. Like, they have that innate ability in the offensive zone. Like, they just make the right pass, right play each time. Pucks off their stick quickly. Like, I don't know how it's hard to teach that ability to just see the ice, like, before the plays even happened. And I'm just not sure. Again, and
counterpoint, it's equally hard to teach being 6'5" and being able to skate and shoot like that.
Exactly. You can't teach size, right?
Can't teach big, and his skating and shooting are very good. His skating is very good for his size, and his shooting ability is quite high. So, like, and we're shitting on him, and we got to stop a little bit because he does have a lot of.
It's just there's flaws in his game that do need to be discussed if you're going to draft him. Like, there's flaws here.
I just don't see how you could risk a first round pick on it.
I mean, I would assume if you are, it's a team's second pick. They're a bad team. Like, they need to hit on a guy. Like, they don't need to hit on a guy, but I mean, like, they're looking for higher end offensive talent versus the safe guy, right?
Yeah, it's just, I guess, like, he would represent probably one of the few guys, wherever he gets drafted, he'll probably be the highest upside.
The highest upside of highest upside available at the time.
Yes, because his upside is very high as a scoring winger. But it's just like, fuck, man. He's got so much to work on. I don't think I've seen. Okay, I don't think I've seen a kid inside the top 75 that has worse details than this.
Well, it would be a little bit easier per se if his like defensive details were better.
Try to think of one.
What a
Of
guy.
anyone we've scouted this year. Anyone
Oh no, there's not.
anyone
No,
has worse details than this?
I think he has. Well, I think, yeah, I don't think so. I mean, no, not really.
Right.
I mean,
So at what point are you willing?
I've complained about.
Well,
I've complained
at
about
what
like
point are you willing to
tags.
take the guy?
Yeah.
What point are you willing to take the guy that has more skill than people remaining, but is the worst at playing a winning brand of hockey?
So I've complained a bit here, kind of off on my own about like Murtag's details too, and Murtag's are better than his.
Murtag looks like fucking Patrice Bergeron compared to this guy.
But Murtag's are better than his,
right? By a lot.
But
that's not good.
I don't know about a lot, but like they're better.
Okay, have you seen Murtag make a pass? Have you seen him do an assist?
That is better. Yes, I have.
Me too. I've seen him get assists on purpose.
Yeah, but I mean, like defense. Like if you look at the defensive side, I mean, if Prokhorov was actually like a decent defender, it wasn't having these flybys all the time. Like it might be a little easier to see. Okay, like we could actually coach him here. Like because he's so big, you could see him more of it. Yeah, you could see a loader lineup guy, but like you can't.
Okay, but if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bicycle. So
yes, but I guess the question is, could you see him potentially making as a non-top 6 player?
No.
So there's an issue there.
No, I don't see him ever playing on a third or fourth line under any circumstances for any reason for any team in the NHL ever. He's either going to be a 60-plus point player or he's not going to play. So in my opinion, I've been wrong before.
Well, it's fine. We're probably wrong all the
time. No, but you got to I don't want to say like I'm fucking the genius scout who's dictating this teenager's career on my little podcast. You know what I mean? Like there is a high-end skill here, and if he hits,
if he wants to hit the 60-point, your 60-point potential, he's going to have to improve his passing. Like he's going to have to improve his offensive IQ and his vision.
Yeah, and he has more than 60-point potential.
Yeah, because he could to me this looks like tough skill to learn, but if he could adapt to a level where he's a decent not a great playmaker, just an average playmaker. So 30 goals, he can score 30 goals. Absolutely.
Noel Gunler could score 30 goals too.
Yeah. But it's just he's got to be able to, like, the other part about the way he plays right now as a pro, like it's not going to translate well as in terms of like being a teammate, because people are not going to want to play with them. Dude,
watch his teammates' body language on the ice. They can't stand it.
Yeah, that's a problem.
He comes in with the puck and they're banging their sticks, and like he'll take a shot and like their heads go up like, here we go again. Like it's literally the guy in beer league.
Yes. And so at pro, like that, again, they're playing junior a little bit different. When he's getting to pro and trying to play like that, like that's not going to fly.
Not going to fly.
Again, I know I'm a goalie, but I know for a fact how annoying it is for guys when they pass the puck to guys and you never get it back. It's really hard to play with those guys. It's hard to stay engaged, and it's hard to expect it's hard to be doing the right things when you know you're never getting the puck back.
Yeah.
Like that's just, it is a thing. And I know this is a thing that causes problems in the room. Whether like it is a thing. So like this has to improve. Now, if this improves at all and we see improvement from here to the end of the year at all, then like this is like that's a big deal.
Yep. Well, I just need to see a guy who's going out there to play for more than his own stat line, which I haven't seen yet.
So let me say this. out of everyone we've seen, this skill, that if he could improve this skill, like this is the most important improved skill of any player we've seen. Because if it improves, like this makes him a much, much better prospect.
I don't want to have to teach someone to be willing to be competitive or to be willing to be a good teammate.
You teach him, or he's got to figure it out.
I don't want to have to teach those
figure it out. Well,
and that's why I'm saying, like, I'm just saying, like, I would have a hard time envisioning a point in the draft where I don't like someone better.
Yeah.
As like I would be that team that would say, I do not care if he hits. I'm not picking him. I don't want him. Don't want him on my team. Like, I'd have to be getting such insane value on the pick. It would have to be in this draft. In this draft, it would have to be outside the top 2 rounds for me to want him.
Well, here, okay,
Or at least outside the top 45. I wouldn't take him in the top half of the second round.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
He's not in my top 45. I'll say that for sure.
I mean, I don't.
And skill-wise, the frustrating part is skill-wise, he's top 20 easily.
Yeah,
but like,
here's a question I have for you. Here's a question I have for you.
Great line skating contest or a wind-up wrist shot contest. Like, you got to play as a teammate. You got to make just quick decisions under pressure, which he hasn't shown any ability. I don't know. Like, I don't want to rip on him any more than I already have. It's just, this is probably the most frustrating guy that I've watched this year, where I'm just like, you see the skill, and I'm just like, why will you not? Like, the frustrating part is, like, the things that he needs to fix, he can choose to fix. But you have to choose to do it.
Choose to fix it. Like, again, I think offensive IQ is very hard to teach. Like,
you can't choose refusing to pass on a 3-on-1.
I'm not sure he can make the pass, Rocco. that's more.
Well,
that's my problem.
I'm saying that we don't know because you haven't seen him try.
Yeah, but again, from all the evidence I've seen, like, I don't know if that exists. And that's that's where, if I can see it exist, I'd be happy to move him up, because then I can at least see, okay, he's just not doing it. But I've seen him try and pass, and it doesn't work. Like, he turns it over. It's a bad pass, just fires into a skate. Like, it's not there. Now, I will say this on our rankings where we have, I mean, we have lots of guys once you get to 50 that are just like some guys that are frustrating players. Like, we have like guys like William Moore, who I think is a frustrating player. Like, again, not a forward. Like, Charlie Trethway's around there. Like, again, another very frustrating player to me. So, like, I don't think, like, I don't like him and Moore seem like kind of like they have some similar things here. Like, I don't know.
I think this guy has more skill.
Yeah. Like, so if I have him at 50, like, I think this guy goes higher.
Like, I think this guy's got more upside than Moore.
Yeah. Like, I think Prokhorov goes higher then. Like, that's just, so I like,
but even Moore doesn't frustrate me to this degree.
No, Moore frustrates me. A lot of those US NDP guys frustrate me. I think a lot of them are somewhat overvalued too. Whereas I think a lot of the Russians are undervalued, actually. But
yes, usually.
Yeah. But anyway, really good talent with this player. Some flaws that just haven't really been discussed that need to be pointed out. So we've done that here.
I think we discussed him at length.
Yeah. We've done that.
Oh my God, it turned into the roast of Daniil Prokhorov. So all right, let's wrap this up. Where do you like this guy? Where's Darren Boyce picking him?
Well, again, like, you're looking into round 2, and like, again, it's just for a team that has willing to take risks. Like, that's really what you're doing here. You're trying to hit a home run with this pick. This isn't a safe pick. Like, this is, you are trying to hit a home run. So it's, instead of taking I'll say this again, Eddie Genborg, you're going to take Eddie Genborg, you're going to take this guy, because Eddie Genborg is going to play. He's not going to score 30 goals, but he's going to play.
I'll take Horcoff over both of them.
No, but fine. But I'm just like, this is like the decisions that teams are going to have to make, right? So if yours is
At
Horcoff,
a certain
but if
point, he's
you're,
worth the risk. I get
yeah,
that.
like if your
Because
line's Horcoff, that fine. But like, there's going to be a line around this spot where there's going to be a divide on what teams are thinking. So there's going to be other
no,
teams like, I won't draft this guy. I want to take a guy who's going to play. That's more valuable to me.
no, and that's fair. But at a certain point, the size, the skating, and the shooting combination, at a
You
certain
can't
point,
ignore it.
he's just going
Like
to
you
have
can't
more.
ignore it.
He just, yes, at a certain point, you can't ignore it, and he just is going to have simply more upside and more ability than guys left. But like, I would say this, I would take him after all the guys I'm convinced are going to play.
Well, then that's like probably in the 40s.
Yeah, but it's not in the first, and it's certainly not in the
No,
top 15.
no, that's fine. But it's, I mean, you listen, this guy's, I think, is still a second rounder. I think like he's like someone again, as
I
you
would
say,
agree
there's
with
teams
that.
that won't like him. There's probably a couple teams that really like him.
I would agree that he's probably a second rounder.
Yeah, because
But
like we've talked
I'd
about it
rather
again.
go
What you said before, it's the elite skills. He has the elite size. He has the ability to skate. He's like he is a big physical dude. Like there's more than one good skill here.
yes.
Whereas at this time in the draft, we're just looking for one. Like I'm getting excited about defensemen who are big and aren't bad skaters and are physical. Like I'm not even looking at the other traits, right? Whereas
I
like
know.
so like yes, like I get it, but there's multiple skills here that translate. Not just one, there's multiple. Which is why
Yeah,
a team will like him.
for sure. It's just there's an equally long list of things that'll keep him out. And again, like you said, he might be the biggest boom bust
Yeah.
of this entire draft.
Again,
Because
would I make the pick? I don't know. But
his upside is probably as a top 10 offensive player in the draft. His ultimate upside, and his low end is probably Div 3 of the Siberian League.
I will say, like, my bias, I do like individual, like, I like playmakers probably a bit better. I like guys who control possession and make good plays that way. Like, I'm much more biased on those type of guys. So maybe, it might be a bit of that for me. It's just like I think though he can go in the first round, and simply my proof of that is just how certain people think of him. Like they think he's a first rounder, and there's other people that don't think he's that at all. So that probably tells you the divide and how people think about him. And there's probably definitely like
he's definitely one of the more divisive prospects in the
yeah.
class.
And
I
it's
think
going to be
for me the most, anyways.
well, it'll be interesting where he gets an up because again, he wasn't really on any of the ranking lists. Like a lot of these Russians haven't, which anyway. But again, I've heard that's because a lot of the scouts don't look at them till the end of the season, or at least that's what I've been told anyway.
If you can't watch them live,
Yeah.
and you're a scout traveling around watching live games from September through May, like, yeah, you're doing your video at the end of the year for the most part.
Like he was ranked 27th for European skaters.
Okay, so like that's wrong. That's too low.
Yeah. Like he's not there. Like he's going to be top. Like he's probably like I think he'll be top 60 on these official lists. I think that's more than fair.
Yeah, I would put a second round grade on him. I personally probably wouldn't take him until the third. But if a guy like that's sitting there like in the third, I'll waste a third round pick trying to get a 35 goal scorer. No problem.
Yeah. But I think
No
he'll be gone by that because there aren't that many 35 goal scorers. So.
No, for sure. Yes, I know that, but I'm just saying I'm not risking a first on it. I'm not convinced. Even if Horcoff, I'll say this: if Horcoff only ever becomes a third liner who scores 15 goals and 40 points, I would take that over 70-point version of whatever Prokhorov becomes in the NHL.
You don't think it'll lead to winning hockey?
I definitely do not think that this is a guy that's going to, as it stands now, survive a playoff grind. No, I
Okay.
don't. No, a lot would need to change. Now, here's the thing: he's got the tools to do it. He has the frame, he has the size, he has the skating, he's got the shot, which is why he's so
Lean
frustrating.
on guys. He's got the size and the physicality. He can lean on guys.
He's got to choose to do it. And again, that's the development part. It comes back to drafting and development. This is a guy with the proper development. You know, could be a boat, but without, you could go the other way. That's Daniil Prokhorov out of the MHL in Russia, someone that we obviously have a wide range of opinions on. So that's a good place to wrap this up. We are going to be back later in the week. Like I said, we have some top 5s and some top 10 lists coming up, which should be a lot of fun. So thank you for watching. Please comment and share this with anyone you might think is interested in the draft as we start to really approach draft season here. Boyce, thanks very much.
All right. We'll see you later.
Cheers.